So in this video, this is a fun one. We're going to talk about 5 productivity hacks that will get you started working or keep you working on whatever project you think is daunting or difficult. And these productivity hacks come from known people you've probably seen on YouTube before, and I'm going to mention them. And these are time-based productivity hacks. So there will be 5 of them. And I'll just mention them one by one here, and then we'll go through them, each of them. First one is the 3-year rule. And then we have the 2-day rule. And then we have the 2-minute rule. And then the 5-second rule. And the last one is actually one I invented myself. I call it the timestamp rule, which is to write, well, we'll get into that at the end of the video. Hang on. Okay, so let's start from the top and down, and I'll go through them one by one. So the 3-year rule, I think coined by Matt D'Avella, the minimalist YouTuber. And it basically simply says that if you want to try a project in life, something you think is really interesting and you would like to make work well, such as starting a YouTube channel, which I'm just trying to do now, then you should at least try it or keep trying for 3 years before you give up. That way you don't become discouraged by the long process and maybe the slow progress in the beginning, which especially in business startups is a very common thing. So the 3-year rule is basically just be patient and like draw a line in the sand and say, I'm gonna be keeping my head up and keep pushing forward and being positive about this project for 3 years before I quit. And in 3 years' time, you will also have a pretty good idea of what scale things have developed to be. And maybe even after 1 year, you know, some people can make things work really fast. Okay, so next one, the 2-day rule, is by also Matt D'Avella, the minimalist and YouTuber. And it's really cool. It's for creating new habits, such as going to the gym, for example, which means that you have to do your new habit for at least 2 days in a row, and you can only stop doing it for 1 day. So you have to have at least 2 days on and 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And in many cases, you'll realize you might end up with having multiple days in a row before you take a day off. But it's pretty cool because it brings a lot of consistency and a lot of less excuses, and you'll get it done much more than if you allowed yourself to just give you the usual excuses, you know, and postponing stuff, you know. So that was the 2-day rule. Okay, the next one is called the 2-minute rule. And it is coined by, I believe, James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. And it's really helpful to get started with difficult tasks that you actually don't like doing. The rule basically says that if you have a hard task, then just tell yourself you just have to work for it for at least 2 minutes and then take it from there, okay? And what happens is usually when you start doing the task and you've done the first few actions of getting started, you build momentum and you realize, oh, it wasn't that hard actually to do the task. It's just getting started that's actually hard, which is super cool. It's probably one of my favorites of all of these, is just get started for at least a few minutes and see if it's really as bad as you thought it would be, you know, getting into the process. The next one is called the 5-second rule, and it is by Mel Robbins. You've probably heard about her. She's also a public speaker and an author. So the 5-second rule is a little bit similar to the 2-minute rule. It's about getting started with a difficult task, but it basically says that if you have a difficult task, then instead of feeling sorry for yourself and it's hard to get started, then just count from 5 down to 1, and then you start with the first action, and then you see what happens. It sounds pretty silly, but it's all about getting started. You know, you could do so much with your life if you could just get started with the first step of whatever goal you set. It's the getting started process that is hard. So Mel Robbins, she's just really hit the nail on the head with this one. So the 5-second rule, I don't use it too much myself. I prefer to use the 2-minute rule to get started on projects, but maybe it sounds good to you. So there you go. Okie dokie, so now the last one, number 5 on the list, is my rule, which I call the timestamp rule. So what it is it's simply just in front of each task on your to-do list, you write how many minutes do you think it will take to complete the task. And what that does is that when you look through your to-do list and look at the next thing, the first thing you see is the number of minutes that you believe it will take to complete the task. In best case, you can write a modest number. And what that does to you is it makes it look like a way more simple task. It makes you interpret the task differently. Like, oh, I just have to do something for example, 5 minutes, even though you maybe have to make an important phone call or answer a complicated email or something. So instead of thinking of the whole process, the first thing you see when you look at your task is just, oh, it's only gonna take this long, so it can't be that bad. So that's the timestamp rule. So this was a bunch of rules that can help you be more productive, or more importantly, help you get started with your projects. I hope you liked the video, and if you do, make sure you subscribe, give it a like. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.